power for EV1 and EV2 are on.
Welcome to Mission Control Houston. We are live from the International Space Station Flight Control Room as teams prepare for U.S. Spacewalk 90. You are currently seeing a live view of NASA astronauts Tracy Dyson and Mike Barrett inside the Quest Airlock aboard the International Space Station as they prepare for their 6.5-hour spacewalk. Today's spacewalk will complete the removal of a faulty electronics box called a radio frequency group from a communications antenna on the starboard truss of the space station. The astronauts will also collect samples for analysis to understand the ability of microorganisms to survive and reproduce on the exterior of the orbiting laboratory. The spacewalk is the second spacewalk of the year and the second for Expedition 71. It was scheduled to begin at approximately 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern. Teams and the crew aboard the International Space Station are working through the pre-breathe procedures ahead of today's spacewalk, and they are currently about 35 minutes down on the timeline. At the top of your screen, you can see NASA astronaut Tracy Dyson. She has the red stripes around her suit, which mark her as EV1 for today's spacewalk. And at the bottom of your screen, you can see NASA astronaut Mike Barrett. He will have the unmarked suit and will be EV2 for today's spacewalk.
Three, two, one, end exercise.
As the crew continues to work through their pre-breathe procedures, you will hear the Capcom or capsule communicator voicing instructions up to the crew. You will hear them talk about different exercises and durations. The portion of the pre-breathe protocol that they're currently in is known as in-suit light exercise. You will see them moving their arms and legs very slightly as part of this protocol. And the purpose of the pre-breathe is to purge nitrogen from the bloodstream to prevent decompression sickness. Decompression sickness results when the body is exposed to decreases in atmospheric pressure, and it's also known as the bends among scuba divers, who can be affected by the sickness if they resurface too quickly. Also on your screen, you can see NASA astronaut Matt Dominic helping Dyson and Barrett work through their procedures.
Three, two, one, start exercise cycle 5.
On your screen now, you can see NASA astronaut Butch Wilmore, who's part of the Boeing crew flight test crew. He's taken some photos of the spacewalkers as they prepare for today's excursion. Additionally, on the space station, we have NASA astronaut Jeanette Epps, as well as Roscosmos cosmonauts Alexander Gurbankin, Nikolai Chub, and Oleg Kononenko, and Butch Wilmore's pilot for the crew flight test, Sonny Williams. The spacesuit that you see Dyson and Barrett currently wearing on your screen is known as the EMU, or Extravehicular Mobility Unit. This suit is an independent system that provides environmental protection, mobility, life support, and communications for the crews performing spacewalks. The EMU consists of two major components, the spacesuit assembly and the life support system. The spacesuit assembly is the suit itself that encloses the crew member, and the life support system is attached to the back of the suit to provide oxygen and suit pressurization, water for cooling, CO2 scrubbing capabilities, battery power, and radio, as well as a caution and warning system to monitor the suit's status. The suits are fitted on the ground for the crew, but they also refit the suit in space to account for any spinal elongation or fluid shifting that has occurred since arriving at the International Space Station. Engineers on the ground take about 80 measurements to ensure that each spacewalker has the best fitting spacesuit, which includes about 16 major elements that compose the suit itself. There's 3 different sizes of torsos, 8 sizes of elbow joint pieces, 2 sizes of adjustable waists, 5 sizes of knee joint pieces, and 65 sizes of gloves or custom-fitted gloves. If you look at Barrett's suit at the bottom of your screen, on his wrist, you can see a playbook, which are the procedures to reference during the spacewalk. He will also have those instructions relayed up to him from the ground IV. The ground IV for today's spacewalk will be NASA astronaut Steve Bowen.
2, 1, end exercise.
Further up on Barrett's hands, you can see mirrors, and you can also see them on Dyson's suit. These mirrors help the astronauts to see the switches and labels on the front of their suit.
3, 2, 1, start exercise.
The EMU has a pressure of 4.3 psi, or pounds per square inch, whereas the space station has a cabin pressure of 14.7 pounds per square inch. This change in pressure is why the astronauts have to go through that pre-breathe protocol, which they're continuing to work through now. NASA astronauts Tracy Dyson and Mike Barrett are currently in the Quest Airlock of the International Space Station. As they continue to work through their pre-breathe procedures, the Quest Airlock includes both the equipment lock and the crew lock. They are currently in what's known as the equipment lock portion, and then once they're done with the pre-breathe and put on the safer or simplified aid for EVA rescue, they will then move to the crew lock to do final communications and suit systems checks before turning their suits to battery power to officially begin the spacewalk. The safer that they will attach after they finish the pre-breathe is sort of like a jetpack that is attached to the back of their suits. The crew members throughout today's spacewalk will have 2 tethers attaching them to the station at all times, but the safer serves as a backup should they get detached.
3, 2, 1, end exercise. 3, 2, 1, start exercise, cycle 10.
A live view inside the Quest Airlock aboard the International Space Station as NASA astronauts Tracy Dyson and Mike Barrett prepare for their 6.5-hour spacewalk. The crew is currently working through the in-suit light exercise portion of the pre-breathe protocols. The pre-breathe protocols help to purge nitrogen from their bloodstream to prevent decompression sickness. You just heard the Capcom or capsule communicator here in Mission Control Houston call up to the crew as part of the pre-breathe protocols, and they mentioned cycle 10. That refers to the in-suit light exercise, and there are 10 cycles as part of that pre-breathe with 4 minutes of in-suit light exercise followed by a 1-minute rest, so they are in that final cycle.
3, 2, 1, end exercise. And that is the end of our IL exercise. We have a go in step 1 for 2.120 of MEDOX replacement.
Copy, go for MEDOX replacement.
And you just heard the call from the Capcom or capsule communicator here in Mission Control stating that they completed cycle 10 of the in-suit light exercise. That is the final cycle of that procedure. They're now working to replace a metal oxide canister or MEDOX. This canister helps to cycle CO2 from the EMU. And the EMU is the extravehicular activity mobility unit, or the spacesuit that you see the crew members currently wearing. After they complete the MEDOX replacement, the next step will be to don the SAFER, or the Simplified Aid for EVA Rescue. They will then move to the crew lock to do final communications and suit system checks before turning their suits to battery power to officially begin the spacewalk. The SAFER is sort of like a jetpack that is attached to the back of their suits. The crew members will have 2 tethers attaching them to the station at all times.
Copies 22.
But the SAFER serves as a backup should they get detached. After the crew is moved into the crew lock portion of the Quest Airlock, the hatch between the crew lock and the equipment lock will be closed, and they will begin depressurization of the crew lock to bring the airlock down to vacuum to match that of space. The crew lock begins at 14.7 psi, or pounds per square inch, to match the rest of the space station and is similar to what we experience here on Earth. Currently on your screen, you can see NASA astronaut Jeanette Epps working to attach the safer or simplified aid for EVA rescue to NASA astronaut Tracy Dyson's EMU or extravehicular mobility unit. She will then be moved into the crew lock, and then they will attach the safer to NASA astronaut Mike Barrett's suit. Barrett is currently towards the bottom of your screen. The go for depressurization is currently scheduled for about 25 minutes from now, around 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern. And about 30 minutes after that, we should see the start time of the spacewalk. That start time coincides to when they switch the suits to battery power. The spacewalk is scheduled to last about 6.5 hours, and it will complete the removal of a faulty electronics box called a radio frequency group from a communications antenna on the starboard truss of the space station. They will also collect some samples for analysis to better understand the ability of microorganisms to survive and reproduce on the exterior of the space station. And just now you saw NASA astronaut Tracy Dyson being moved into the crew lock.
And yeah, I think the only thing we didn't do is we didn't take photographs, but there was really nothing significant other than water. I can get a picture of a water droplet if you want it.
We're all set, Matt. Your description was really, really helpful.
And then the sabers are getting packaged up. Jeanette and I are going to focus on Mike and TC, and after that, Team Starliner is going to go in there and do your video tour for the IV hatch and the airlock. Does that work for you guys?
That works for us. Thanks.
Both NASA astronauts Mike Barrett and Tracy Dyson have had their SAFERs, or Simplified Aid for EVA Rescues, removed from the back of their suits, and they're now working through procedures to begin doffing or removing their EMUs. On your screen, you're seeing NASA astronaut Mike Barrett on the left-hand side and NASA astronaut Tracy Dyson on the right-hand side in the extravehicular mobility units. They had donned those spacesuits several hours ago and completed pre-breathe protocols, moved into the crew lock, depressurized the crew lock down to vacuum, opened the EV hatch, and turned their spacesuits on to battery power. Shortly after setting their suits to battery power at 8:46 a.m. Eastern, 7:46 a.m. Central, the crew reported a water issue. After some brief troubleshooting on the ground, the spacewalk was officially terminated due to this water leak that was resulting from the service and cooling umbilical unit on NASA astronaut Tracy Dyson's spacesuit. The service and cooling umbilical is an umbilical that attaches the EMU, or extravehicular mobility unit, to transfer electrical power, hardline communications, oxygen, cooling water, and feed water between the International Space Station and the EMU, or extravehicular mobility unit. At no time was the crew in any danger during this water leak, but as a result of the termination of the spacewalk, the EV hatch was closed, and they began the process to repressurize the crew lock, bringing it back up to 14.7 pounds per square inch. They then opened the hatch between the crew lock and the equipment lock and moved NASA astronauts Mike Barrett and Tracy Dyson back into the equipment lock, where they removed their SAFERs, or simplified aid for EVA rescue, and have now begun doffing or removing their suits. We will continue to provide live coverage of the suit doffing procedures until their helmets have been removed. You can now see NASA astronaut Butch Wilmore in the center of your screen. He's part of NASA's Boeing crew flight test currently on board the International Space Station. He is capturing some photos of the glove of NASA astronaut Tracy Dyson's EMU, or extravehicular mobility unit. As a result of today's spacewalk termination, they are working to gather some extra imagery to send to teams here on the ground to investigate and troubleshoot and really determine a cause of the leak in the service and cooling umbilical unit.
The hatch is closed and locked, and the lock latch is indicating locked.